I think after Tiffany Wilson's and the stretch, I'd like you all to just take a deep breath. Because Tiffany's efforts take care of the outside world, and what I'm going to talk about is let's bring it inside. Okay? A spiritual awakening to begin in New Jersey. Before I introduce myself more, I want to just let you know what we'd like to get out of this presentation. That a spiritual experience is real, and spiritual transformation is very possible for youth and adults. That will redefine and understand the development of self-worth and dignity as keys for this transformation. A local opportunity for mental health, addiction, educational, faith community, and justice system leaders to lead a community transformation, and that healing, not just maintenance, is a real possibility. In addition to me being an adult, a child and adolescent, and an addiction psychiatrist, I am a mental health consumer. My father in his mid-50s developed a major depressive episode, became paranoid, catatonic, and the only thing that pulled him out of it was electroshock treatments, on medications, and had the rest of his life was normal. 2 years later, his sister, my aunt, developed a manic episode, got her on lithium, rest of her life was fine. I have been in treatment for 35 years for a major depressive disorder, on medications, and I think I'm doing pretty well. And what's important is I also have lived spiritual experiences. And it is not the same as the mental health. They may be related, they may not be related, and that's what we're going to talk about. My goal is that you leave with a recognition that spiritual experience is real. It can lead to problems in the mental health system, as some of you may know. And it's a great opportunity for personal growth. And I'd hope that you see my vision for New Jersey by the end of this talk. A 27-year-old female graduate student, teaching assistant, suffering from a broken love relationship, prays to God and gets sudden relief of her pain in a spiritual experience. She becomes so happy and energetic, talks to her friends about connecting with God, that they call the screeners for a well check, and she is taken by police to be admitted to the hospital. She was involuntarily admitted, misdiagnosed, and medicated. An African-American Baptist minister reaches out to his local mental health agency because his 25-year-old son has been caught up in drugs and having strange behaviors and recently got hospitalized. He has been praying and working longer hours with his congregation, hoping things will change. He started having panic attacks that remind him of when he was a kid on the streets in a drug-ridden neighborhood with guns and violence that led him to the church, and he's scared that he can't go on with his work. These are religious spiritual experience. The first is what we would call a spiritual emergency. The second is what we would call a spiritual crisis. We have a part of us, and especially with research being done with the psychedelics, it appears that we have a spiritual core wired into us that is out of awareness and has a moral compass, is loving and compassionate, and lives with a faith that is indomitable. The group I'm with, NJ Aware, is a coalition of mental health, religious, and spiritual leaders. Our goal is to bring awareness of the spirituality to all of the services that we've been hearing about, so that people with these experiences don't get harmed, and they get identified, and we develop programs to promote a spiritual awakening. Now, usually when I say spirituality, I either see openness or glared over faces, because people immediately think religion. So let me straighten this out from the beginning. Religion is an institutional aspect of beliefs and practices with a social group. When I talk about spirituality, I'm talking about a personal experience of pursuing the transcendent and ultimate reality. And there's another aspect that we in the research literature talk about as religiousness or religiosity. Someone may do yoga and not be Hindu. Someone may pray and not necessarily identify with Christianity or Islam. Someone may meditate and may not identify with Buddhism. So, let me talk about what I'm talking about. Let me define it. There are hundreds and thousands of definitions of spirituality. I'm going to use this one and I'll explain why. The quality of the relationship to whomever or whatever is most important or supreme in life. Quality. A quality is real and it's hard to put into words. Try to put the quality of soft into words. It's not about a thing that we have, it's about a relationship. A relationship to, it may be God, to a higher power, but to whatever is supremely important in life. And when we look at the characteristics associated, there are a few that we use to identify spiritual experience. A sense of connection with something beyond ourselves or outside of ourselves. An energy that's released. A sense of wholeness or integrity. There's an emotional component. It may be peace, it may be joy, it may be awe, depending on the setting. And usually there's a meaning and a purpose. Now, usually when we use the word spirituality, we're talking about a general sense of these characteristics. And if you look, I could go to a sporting event and be connected and energetic and whole and joyful, and I have meaning and purpose. The spirituality part of us is present on a daily basis, and we may not even realize that that's what's being tapped into. But what I want to focus is not spirituality in general, but spiritual experience as real and healing. Let me talk, let's see. If you ask our population the questions, to what extent do you consider yourself a religious person? What extent do you consider yourself a spiritual person? 70% identify as religious or spiritual. It is very important. This is the composition in terms of religion of New Jersey. You can just take a look at it. I'm not going to go through it in detail. And what I want to talk about, the main purpose for NJ Aware that it started was with a woman that had a spiritual experience and got committed to the hospital. There are these spiritual experiences I'm talking about. They may be spontaneous. They may come from life stressors. They may actually come from near-death experiences. Okay? Someone that has them may not know what's going on. It may progress in intensity. It may cause them to challenge their beliefs, their religious beliefs. It may bring out other feelings. That's what we would call the spiritual crisis. Some people, it goes further. Now, I don't know how many of you in here have had what you would call a spiritual experience, but it can get intense. It can get joyful, it can get happy. It can also have visions, hear voices, and become delusional. That's very easy to get mixed up with psychosis, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and get hospitalized. That is not what is needed. Our goal is to educate all of these first responders to at least ask the question, identify it, and avoid hospitalization. What they need, let me see if this is just, spiritual emergency was identified in 1986 by Dr. Stanislav Grof, and we frequently don't know about it. I'm not going to go into it. Open dialogue. Tiffany, your response system and what we're building in New Jersey is absolutely perfect for what we're talking about, what I'm talking about. So we want to get spirituality, understanding into that system. Now, why do I say a spiritual awakening to begin in New Jersey? There's one piece of information that has led me to do that. If you look at the suicide mortality, suicide rates in America, and we look at the rank order, you can't see it, but New Jersey has the lowest suicide mortality in the nation. Which tells me that New Jerseyans love life. And we have the diversity and we have the resources for what I'm talking about. This is not a dream. This is not something that's ideal. This is practically possible. And what I'm going to do is show you some of the new information. Now, most of our systems are built on the social determinant. Oh, there's the opportunity. Are built on the social determinants of health. Well, if you look at these, economics, neighborhood, environment, education, food, community, healthcare system, where's spirituality? Where is it? Our mental health system, our addiction system, our psychiatric association is minimizing it. We want that to change. SAMHSA, the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, in 2011 released the dimensions of wellness. They included spirituality with primarily a focus on purpose and meaning in life. Now, the opportunity for New Jersey is, I will talk about adopting a spiritual attitude. All of this begins because some of you, I look, don't quite know what I'm talking about. It begins with a quote. Were one asked to characterize the life of religion in the broadest and most general terms possible, one might say it consists of the belief that there is an unseen order and that our supreme good lies in harmoniously adjusting ourselves thereto. This belief and this adjustment are the religious attitude of the soul. James uses religion the way I'm using spirituality. Now, what does that mean? For history, all of history, there was an unseen order out in the world, in the objective world, until Sir Isaac Newton identified the laws of gravitation and motion. There is an unseen order in the subjective world of experience that is out of awareness and can be connected with, and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go through some of it in detail so you can see that this is a real possibility. It's not a dream. And this is what opens the spiritual core. The key is a common language of self-worth and dignity. And we're going to operationalize these, okay? When we talk, and this uses a CBT framework, so you're all familiar with this. But let's talk about what we mean by worth. That quality of a person or thing that lends importance, value, merit, measurable by the esteem in which the person or thing is held. We don't usually use the word self-worth, but we do use self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-competence just like there. Self-worth develops over time. Babies, young children develop confidence. They do. It progresses to emotions and self-esteem, 3 to 4. As our brain myelinates between 5 and 7, we now can know I have confidence. And it only becomes integrated around 8 to 10, pre-adolescent. Shame, we find in this work, is not just a feeling. Shame is the entire impact on being where we feel unworthy. Now, dignity. Dignity is a word that we sort of throw around, and almost everywhere in the world it's misused. We use it as something we have. With this, dignity is not something we have. Dignity is an expression of who we are, the quality of being worthy of esteem or honor. Dignity is about honor. And in the area of thinking, what do we honor most? Making choices with reason. In the area of feeling, what do we honor most? Compassion, open-heartedness, beginning with empathy. In the area of action, what do we honor most? Courage. With our mind, knowing what's going to happen and still going out there and risking our lives. That begins with honesty with self and honesty with others. As with shame, guilt is not a feeling. Guilt is a total being reaction to injured dignity. Now, why is this important? What we've learned is that when we heal the injuries in life to our self-worth, to our dignity, something happens spontaneously. That spiritual core opens. I now have to use a second arrow because the psychedelics. All the psychedelics do is open that spiritual core, and if you listen to the research, those people get in touch with their self-worth and dignity. So we can do this personally, we can do this therapeutically without drugs. Because here's how we're made. When we strengthen and empower that self-worth and dignity, it opens a whole other level that's hidden. And the first thing that usually opens is love. And this isn't love like a feeling. It's not love like a commitment like I love you. This is the agape, the unconditional love, acceptance of self, of others, of the world. The second part of that spiritual core that opens is truth. But this isn't truth like right or wrong, good or bad. Mahatma Gandhi talks about a truth force. The foundation of his nonviolence. We have wired in a moral compass that knows when human worth and dignity are damaged. Some of you familiar with mental health, the DSM, the manual for diagnosing, just added moral injury to one of their V codes on spiritual and religious problems. They're recognizing that moral injury happens with veterans and it isn't treated by PTSD treatment sometimes. And finally, when we do this work, what really opens is an incredible faith. But this isn't faith like a belief. That's not what I'm talking about. We have wired into us a faith mechanism. Every one of you go to bed at night with 100% faith, you're going to wake up in the morning. We have hundreds and thousands of things every day that happen like that. You walk out the door, you have 100% faith you're not going to fly off the face of the earth. And the brain is processing this all the time, and that's what we mean. Faith not as a belief, but the action when that spiritual core opens, when that new connection with love and truth opens, we can take a leap into a new life. And that leap into the new life is what we mean by a spiritual awakening. So the spiritual attitude is making a commitment to the worth and dignity of every person, including ourselves. Self-compassion, self-acceptance, all are necessary. I'm going to skip that because we're at time. 3 steps are needed for New Jersey. Number 1, awareness of spiritual experience. That's why we have NJ Aware, that it's real, that it can be injured, and that it is an opportunity. The second thing is a common language of self-worth and dignity. We don't need new programming, but if we talk to each other, when we share self-worth, when we open to our dignity, something happens. And finally, forums for this transformation, this awakening. It can be mental health, it can be addictions, it can be faith communities, it can be first responders, it can be educational institutions, because none of this language is connected with any religion. It is secular, it is neutral. We need to get into our young children the necessity and the need for self-worth and dignity. Now, can I have 10 minutes? Okay. I want to show you how this works, but I'm going to ask you to pick a partner. And it may be someone you know, it may be someone you don't know. If you don't want to do this, you can watch, because you'll still pretty much get it. Am I doing okay?
The microphone stopped, so we're just...
The microphone stopped?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not hearing me? Oh, how long did that when did that happen?
Not long ago. We just thought the tech guy would get there a little quicker. He's here with the new microphone. You're good, sorry. Okay, is this...
There we go.
All right.
So I don't know if you heard me. I asked you to find a partner. We're going to demonstrate how this works. It's not rocket science. And I'm going to show you what happens. So pick a partner that you're going to work with and sort of pull your chairs so you might be facing each other a little bit. Okay, yeah. Intimacy is tough. Yeah. Transformation takes discomfort sometimes. So, let me show you how this works. We have thoughts, we have feelings, we have actions. Most teenagers have this attitude that I am what I feel. If I feel sad, I am sad. If I feel guilty, I am guilty. If I feel worthless, I am worthless. No, we aren't our feelings. We aren't our thoughts. We have thoughts, we have feelings, and we have urges to do things. And we have the ability to make a choice as to which one we empower. That's what's important. Now, as you're connecting with this person, as soon as we look at a person, we have mirror neurons that are special for mammals and humans, that as soon as I look at you, I can feel what you feel. And you feel what I feel. However, I may not know what it is, because I'm not a mind reader. I may not even know what I feel, and they may not know what they feel. But empathy is present And the question is, to what degree are we aware of what that other person feels and what we feel? So we talk. We share experiences. And we share experiences of attitudes. An attitude comes from injury to self-worth and dignity. Attitudes of worthlessness, attitudes of fear, attitudes of hatred come from being hurt. So when we can face a person, when we can be with them with empathy, when we can begin to enter, as soon as you face them, you enter self-worth. You see on them their attitudes, their experiences, but we don't know what it is. It's there. When we work with clients, we open this up. Okay? And it's filled with fear. The question is, can we open it or not? And the question when you look at your person, is it safe? Right? And how close do I want to get? Intimacy. When we can be with that person, when we can touch their confidence, their esteem, their ability to do things, we open up the next level. Compassion. We now have entered the heart level. When we are with someone, we have that compassion, right? We can really open our heart. They can open their heart. We can share, but it takes courage. It takes honesty. Because we keep ourselves secret. We need to share it. When the sharing happens and the heart's open, it opens to caring. As soon as we care, now, mental health in New Jersey, we are taught as therapists, don't care about your patients, keep neutral. You can't do spiritual work, and I say you can't even do trauma work, without opening your heart and your soul and caring for that person's life. Okay? The problem is that starts to open that sort of sense of love, but it opens heaven and hell. When you enter the soul level, you experience the bliss of heaven, the ecstasy, and the vengeance and the hatred and the violence of hell. That's what we're talking about that needs transformation. It's the depth of who we are. When we can touch it, and it needs to be done with other people in communities, but when we can do that, faith opens up. When we can have self-compassion for who I am, what have I gone through in life, and I can accept it, and I can let it go. We can't have a do-over of life, but we can remove the suffering. Forgiveness is absolutely necessary for most of us, for the things we did to ourselves, as well as did to others, and what has been done to us. This truly opens this spiritual core. It is filled with happiness, joy, creativity, and healing. So it's something very real, very valuable. I see heads shaking. Some of you have experienced this. We want you to share it. So the spiritual awakening, oops, that came out weird. Orienting for awareness, that's what NJ Aware does. We have programs to introduce first responder training, professional development if we need it. Any of you that are interested, we're going to have a public meeting on Zoom, April 7th, 5 to 6:30. Now, that is not the location it's going to be at, so don't copy that down. But contact me or the other founder, Janet Werner, will give you the link. It's open to the public for us to discuss what happens, what do we need, where are we going, what's the impact. You have a booklet with this information, and along with that booklet, there's a pin. That pin represents what I'm talking about. Can we be open-minded with the world in our mind? Can we be open-hearted? And can we be open-handed to reach out and help, or to reach out and ask for support? I encourage you to wear the pin and start a conversation, because if you meet someone, a stranger, one of the most interesting and maybe exciting things I can ask them is, have you ever had a spiritual experience in your own understanding? 40% of Americans have had spiritual experiences. We need to talk about it, explore it, because the process will begin to take over on its own. I'll leave you with a final quote, and I'm done. The highest spiritual practice is self-observation without judgment. Judgment is what gets in the way of almost everything we do, almost everything in who we are. So I invite you to take on this vision seriously. Okay? We're open to discussion. You can contact me. You can contact Janet. Thank you. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak here.
We can do 5 minutes of questions.
Oh, you have time?
Yeah, well, we can do,
Okay.
we have a little room. We can do 5 minutes.
Any questions? Yes. Yeah.
And this school is amazing because every staff member is connected with them. And it's the first time in 12 years that my son is happy to go to school. But school is going to school, so it's making CBA school.
That's wonderful. That's what we're talking about. It can be done in almost any setting. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Sir?
In some organizations, public organizations, hospitals, I noticed that there's some pushback about having pastoral care, whatever you want to call it, not just about the religious aspects, but as you were describing, the spirituality of things. How does that need to be integrated into the public forum, not just from a religious or spiritual standpoint, but a way of making people aware that there is a need and that there is a benefit?
That's what we're trying to do, and you say there's pushback everywhere. As soon as I say the word spirituality, this part of my life is dedicated to spiritual awareness and spiritual transformation. As soon as I bring that up, there's reaction, there's pushback. We just have to start with, this is real, this is important, it needs to be included in everything we're doing. And there needs to be an understanding and an education of people, even ministers, even we're working with faith communities, and ministers sometimes have difficulty with spiritual emergencies. They don't know what to do with it. They need to work in partnership with us, with the first responders, so that we get people to the right support network that they need. So it's mainly education and conversation. You have conversations about their spiritual experience, and we will start to have it open up. Yes, sir, right in the middle. Oh, go ahead. Oh, there's a woman with the microphone already, and then she'll hand it to you. Okay, that'll be it.
There's a line of a song that goes, joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. We need both to grow.
Yeah.
The joy increases our heart, compassion, and the pain gives us that armor so we won't get hurt by that thing again. I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because I totally understood everything you're saying, and I'm just a guest. I'm not even in the therapeutic field or the clinical field. But for all of you caregivers and therapists and counselors, I want to encourage you to take the time to self-care. Because as you open these clients and children and teenagers, as you open their Pandora's box, we have a tendency to take it, to absorb it. And you'll go home with it, you don't even really know.
Yeah.
So take the time to meditate, to stretch, to get that massage, to go to the gym, get on the treadmill, or just do anything to self-care. Because as a retired correction officer, we used to say, hey, when you leave that jail, you take that hat off. When you leave the jail. And as a mom, as soon as I left the jail and took off the jail hat, I put on the mom hat. Okay, and sometimes they would intertwine. That was because I didn't understand the concept of self-care.
Yeah.
This was in the 90s. So I just want to encourage all of you to take care of yourself, love on yourself.
So thank you for that praise and those blessings, because yes, self-care is important. I would say pain isn't just for armor. Pain expands our heart. When we process it, when we see where it came from, when we open, it opens our heart, it opens our soul, and the more I can process and let go, the stronger I become. And one last question, and I'll be around later, you can speak with me.
Just a quick question. So I'm very much into this stuff. I've been on 10-day meditation retreats, all that stuff. But I've also had psychosis. And my question is, how do you kind of distinguish, because psychosis can be problematic and very troubling, whereas I feel, and I think I kind of know the difference after doing this, is more like psychosis, more like in your head more, but it also has aspects of that too, so it can get very confusing at times.
Yeah, I usually share an experience, and I forgot it in my notes. What got me into this interest, I was in my residency training in psychiatry at Bellevue, and I woke up one night with a panic attack. I was having a terrible nightmare. I calm myself down, I wake up in the morning, and I'm paranoid. I'm going to be killed that day. So I went through work, only to get up to my therapist who was in New York City. I was afraid he was going to have a camera. He was going to call the police, and I would be admitted to Bellevue with a first episode psychosis, because I was psychotic. Fortunately, he was wonderful, and in one session, we connected it with life events when I was 6 and 7 years old. And at the same time, it was connected with religious connections with Jesus Christ, because my father's a minister. That's part of me. That's been part of my life. So the unconscious is powerful. The spiritual core is every day saying, wake up and fix me. It wants you to have self-worth. It wants you to live with dignity. So yes, professionally, we need to learn how to differentiate it. We have training programs that can help that. There is a way. But what's important to know, the spiritual emergency may be psychotic, but it's not dangerous. There's almost never suicidal or homicidal ideation. It usually happens quicker than bipolar disorder or quicker than schizophrenia develops. So there are ways to tell, but the first step we teach is listen. Is there religious content? Is there spiritual content? Maybe it is a true spiritual experience, okay? Thank you all for listening. I'll be around. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chatlos. And like he said, he is around if anyone